some hope to die.
By these 50 countries, differing so much in race and religion, in language and culture.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
Well, I know they're lying. They tricked me once, but they're not going to trick me twice. The time is now. Good evening and welcome back to the Professor Penn podcast. David Penn, your host. Glad to be with you as always for episode number 252, coming to you on this Tuesday night, November 4th, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. We've moved the start time from 7:30 to 7 p.m. Thank you very much. I want to start out with a little house cleaning or housework or chores. I want everybody to please remember what we're doing here. We're politically motivated. We're building a digital army. The action's on X. If you're on Facebook, cool, you can build one there. Where the real action is, and why I say the real action, is because we've got a lot of resistance on X. X is the place where everybody goes to play in the sandbox. So we're building a digital army. How we do that? We follow each other. We repost each other's links. We stay in communication with each other. We have to have a digital army. We understand that caucus is coming very soon. That's February. We want to go to caucus. Now, if you're part of the national and international audience, guess what? We're talking about politics in Minnesota as an example of what you can do wherever you live. If you happen to live in Somalia, it works. And you know what? The Somalis have proved that they know how to make the political process work in Minneapolis today. You know what, Tanner? Tonight, when this posts up, we're recording early in the day, we might know who the new mayor is of Minneapolis. It could be, good morning, Tanner.
Good morning.
It could be a socialist.
Yeah.
Omar Fatah. We could have a communist as the mayor of the financial capital of the world, New York City. That is the preamble, the subtext for our podcast tonight. You know, we've got some big changes going on. So we're going to be urging people throughout this country, regular people, not professional politicians, not people that do politics as a job. And that doesn't mean all of them are bad. There's some good ones, but money is a corrupting influence. I'm asking for people that you wake up one day like I did. You wake up one day and you go, oh, what's that uncomfortable tug I feel in my heart to do something? If you're out there and you feel the pull, you feel the power, if you're anointed to be part of this great historical event in human history, which is the battle really between good and evil, at least now you can look at it in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different street corners. You could say it's Democrats versus Republicans. You could say it's globalists versus nationalists. You could say it's communists versus patriots. You could say it was good versus evil. It depends on your street corner. All those descriptions work. But if you are an everyday American citizen in Chattanooga, Tennessee, let's just say, and you woke up this morning and you had this gnawing feeling that you have to do something, let me introduce you to today's guest, Representative Drew Roach, a friend of this podcast. Welcome, Drew.
Thanks for having me.
Drew, I've known a long time, and Drew and I, we like each other. We're not palsies. In fact, we've never gone out for a meal. I invited you for breakfast. We never did it. But Drew was a guy who I met. He was a guy like me. He was a guy, and the next thing I knew, he was running for the Minnesota House, and he won. He won, and this guy is just. I'm not trying to minimize who you are, but you're just like me. You're just a guy. In fact, you're a guy probably knowing you don't have a lot of political aspiration beyond helping your neighborhood and doing something for your neighbors and doing something for Christ and country. I don't see you as a guy that's plotting out a 20-year political career. In fact, last time you were on to set the stage to give it to you, I think you said something like, hey, if I'm one and done, I'm standing by my principles. Do you remember him saying that?
Yeah.
That'd be a great clip. We should dig that out of the archives.
Yeah, I'm sure I can find it.
But my point in saying this to everybody, if you want to save country and you want to save freedom and even save faith, it's not going to happen with you sitting on the couch at home. It's going to be like Drew. Remember that campaign? I want to be like Mike. I want to be like I want to be like Drew, which is kind of funny.
Sure. That's funny.
Anyhow, welcome back to the show. What's up, young man? What's going on?
Not much. I appreciate it. I think that's you gave me a lot of credit for that. But I think it's important that when, especially now after Charlie Kirk, and we see the distinct line between good and evil in this country, that people get activated. They roll up their sleeves. They shut off Netflix. Disconnect from the digital world, sort of say that we get caught up in every day, and have your voice be heard. Participate in the caucus process. Get behind a candidate that you support. Whether it be school board, city council, mayor race, state representative, U.S. Senate seat. We need to support our candidates, the good candidates that are willing to get into the ring and battle, right, and shine light on the darkness that we all see. It's all out there, and it's just a matter of what are we going to do about it. Are you going to sit there on the couch and wait for somebody else to fight the battle? Or are you going to get in and fight the battle yourself? And so it's I definitely see an uptick of people that are now, especially after the Charlie Kirk's assassination, they're now have it more so than ever. They've got that fire lit, and they're excited, and they're engaged, and they're wanted to get out there and speak truth to power, and really push back.
And for the Minnesotans that are watching, because there are a lot of delegates that watch this, what is your House district, Drew?
House District 58B. So I cover areas of Dakota, Rice, and Goodhue County.
And the cities in that area for those of us that
There's a bunch of the main city is Farmington. That's where I'm out of.
Okay.
But I mean, I've got it goes as east as Ravenna Township, as far south as Greenville Township, and as far north as Rosemont. I got one precinct in Rosemont, and then as far west as Farmington.
Is Rosemont where the refinery is?
Yeah, Rosemont. That's the Flint Hills refinery. Yeah.
Okay. And then what is the population of your district?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, every House district we represent about 43,000 residents. So,
43,000. And is your district, this is kind of goofy, but is it blue, red, or purple?
it's red. I
It's
won
a-
I won every precinct but one. I lost one precinct by maybe 15, 20 votes.
Okay. Are you going to be starting in that precinct in your reelection campaign?
Oh, they're going to know who I am in this precinct in this next election for sure.
Is this a big geographical area for you? Is it, I mean, like driving from one
Yeah.
end to the other?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's definitely big. And when you get out to, some parts of my district is very rural. So when you go from house to house, it's by no means are you necessarily walking, right? I mean, you need, ideally I have a side by side that I'm cruising around in some of those,
Oh, cool.
in some of those rural areas of the district, because,
I came
people got
down to
big
an event.
lots.
You remember I came down to an event in your
yeah,
district?
you sure did. You came down to one in Hastings.
And I came down there and I'm driving down there and I'm going, wow.
Yeah.
I
it's
hope
beautiful.
beautiful,
venue.
but it is rural.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
Occasionally I get invited to things. I'm not saying that it turned out that way. It was a beautiful event. But one time I was invited by some Republicans to an event, and it wasn't an event. It was a back room
Oh, sure.
for an ass whipping.
Yeah.
So
sure, yeah.
when you get out, that's the last time I'm traveling alone. Let me just tell you, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
But the thing is fractious right now. Got a lot of conflict, and I have to say, Drew doesn't seem to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I just can tell you how I look at it.
Yeah.
You don't seem one to me who shies away from conflict. It seems to me that you're running towards the conflict. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to say that I run towards a conflict. I'm just trying to speak truth, and be as transparent as I can, and shine the light on the darkness, and wherever that lies, And so the reality is I've got a set of principles that I stand by. Have some convictions that I'm not willing to waver from, and if that rubs some people off the wrong way, well, so be it. I think at the end of the day, those people that get frustrated with me being so principled, are envious that they're not as principled as they should be.
Maybe in the deep dark of the night, when the angel of death comes to take their spirit home or wherever they're going, they may regret not having principles at that moment. Because, without principles, what do you say to yourself
Yeah.
when life is gone and you're still conscious? What do you say to this is the point of religion, right? This is the point of principles, to live by a set of principles so that our lives have coherence and meaning. Without coherence and meaning, what do you do when you don't have any more options?
Yeah.
But sit there with, whoa, I didn't have any principles.
Yeah.
That's republicanism.
Well, what do I say to my kids when I decided to get into politics because I wanted to stand for something and I want to have principles and I want to be the change that I want to see in politics. So how can I look my kids in the eye or my constituents in the eye, look myself in the mirror if I just rolled over on those principles?
No matter where you find corruption, you have to call it out.
Absolutely.
And why would that be? Because you are a Republican in lifestyle. Republicanism, and we've been covering this a lot on the podcast, there's 4 cornerstones to it, but it's really about anti-corruption. And I don't mean corruption like money. I mean, it's anti-corruption of the soul, because Republicans believe that if we don't live by principles, we become corrupted.
Yeah.
Energetically,
Yeah.
soulfully, which then, of course, leads to financial corruption.
Yep.
But that's a symptom of a deeper issue. So, really, what drove me to ask you back on the show is you've taken a very principled stand recently about something,
Mhm.
which I want to just take a minute, if you're willing to talk about
Sure.
it, which is the Kresha concern. You posted up a very truth-seeking letter.
Yeah.
Is that a way?
Sure.
Are you comfortable with me
Sure.
saying?
Yeah.
Go ahead and talk about it. I think it's important we bring it on the table.
Yeah, well, I know there's colleagues of mine that aren't happy with my stance on this, and that's fine. They have every right to be upset that I maybe ruffled some feathers a little bit. But the reality is again, there are some allegations made on Representative Kresha, whether they're true or not. They need to be brought to light and they need to be talked about. This is somebody who controls 40% of the state budget as the chair of the Education Finance. And if the allegations, on Ron are Representative Kresha are true, that's a problem. And when I found out about this, I had to wash my hands clean of it. My conscience had to come clean. I couldn't know about allegations and do nothing about it, and then actually be honest when I'm having conversations with constituents or other colleagues in the legislature about calling out fraud and corruption. Because if we're going to stand toe to toe and side by side and fight corruption, well, I need to know the people on my side of the aisle are clean and that they're not dabbling in corruption or fraud. And I'm not saying that the accusations against Representative Kresha are accurate or true. But I think it's funny that instead of talking about the allegations, we talk about the person bringing about the accusations. That's your first line. It should be your first red flag to realize that maybe there's some truth to those accusations. Maybe there's not. But when instantly you go after you start attacking the person presenting evidence and not the person who is being accused, to me, it's a red flag.
Let me just interject. I was looking for something.
Sure.
Because your letter was very specifically focused on allegations of a paycheck protection program. I don't want to call it fraud. I'm not a lawyer and I don't want to say anything.
Yeah.
Just there was some allegations made. I don't think they've been adjudicated as of yet. But I want to say that before this came up, the Morrison County Republican Party, and if you're, nationally, this has got to happen in your backyard. We got a problem in our party. What is republicanism? And it's even doubled down into now a cleavage over the state of Israel. So we got a lot of issues to talk through. And, what a Republican is matters. And it's been that concept, what is Republicanism? What are we doing as Republicans, we don't all have to think alike or talk alike or support the same things. We're politically motivated. We don't agree. That's cool. But the basic tenets of the philosophy, man, we got to agree on that.
Yeah.
And we don't.
Yeah.
And because it's a champagne problem, we have spent since 46 living in the lap of luxury here in this country. And I mean 1946. And it's allowed there to form up a uni-party of interest. I think you were just talking about it.
Yeah.
And you're confronting it wherever you see it. And we're going to have to confront it and it's not personal. I don't know this representative, and I'm not here to adjudicate his case
Yep.
or to comment on his guilt or innocence. I am commenting that a process of discovery seems reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what we're saying is what you're saying, and I'm agreeing with you. How do we call out the fraud that's going on in this state, which is intergalactic level fraud?
Yeah.
And then we have it in our own house and we don't clean up our own house.
Correct.
You can't do that. That would be hypocritical. We'd be hypocrites.
100%. And that's the last thing that I want anybody to ever think of me is that I'm a hypocrite, right? That I stand for party over people.
Woe unto you, you hypocrites.
I would love to be able to stand arm in arm with every member of my caucus. I would love that. This is why I got into politics, because I want to change the Republican Party for the better. But in order to change for the better, we've got to take out the rotten apples.
Well, Morrison County Republicans, the BPOU there, they issued a letter long before any of this came up, and it is the responsibility of the Morrison County Republican Party to uphold the standards of the organization and to be good stewards of the organization. It is crucial that the party maintains good standards in order to get voters to support our candidates. Whereas in 2021, Representative Ron Krisha authored HF 2409, a bill to give $5 million of taxpayer money to provide legal defense to help illegal immigrants from being deported. On May 1st, 2025, Representative Krisha voted yes on SF 3045, a bill that gives $1.3 million of taxpayer money to fund the Council of LGBTQIA2S+, which uses tax money for ensuring that LGBTQIA2S+ Minnesotans are represented in state government. And also, SF 3045 increased Keith Ellison's budget that he used to attack Minnesotans, push lockdowns, and persecute business owners that didn't bow to tyrannical lockdowns. We talked about that your last trip in. Yeah. You have a very strong feeling about that as a small business owner. I don't like to use the word small. My bank's going to be in here right after this. When they say I'm a small business, it pisses me off because it's everything to me, staying self-governing financially. Yeah. It's not even about the money. It's about being free.
Yeah.
And if you're working for somebody else, I'm not impugning you. It just gives you an idea what an ass I am.
Sure.
I can't work for other people.
Sure.
I have strong opinions. On May 12th, 2025, Representative Krisha voted yes on a Health and Human Service Omnibus Bill, HF 2435, that took taxpayer money to publicly fund abortion. Whereas HF 2435 funds the Department of Health policy to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion and injects race into the Department of Health. And on May 16, 2025, Representative Krisha voted yes on HF 2433 to give $4 million of taxpayer money to fund Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Center at the Department of Education. HF 2433 also gave $1 million to a leftist organization that seeks racial quotas of teachers. Whereas Republicans oppose DEI, oppose their tax dollars funding these items, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Morrison County Republican Party fully and unequivocally condemns the actions and behavior of Representative Crecia for betraying the values of Republicans in our country, our district, and our state. That, to me, is what needs to happen. And I'm going to tell you why. I don't know Representative Crecia. I don't know if he's a professional politician or a guy like you that came out of the muck and mire of everyday life and said, I want to get in on saving my country. I don't know the man. But we have a political professional class. You're with them every day. You know how they're going to fly right? They're going to fly right when the citizens of every district hold their elected officials accountable. Now, I really don't care why they vote the liberty agenda and for freedom and faith. It doesn't matter to me why they do it, after all. Just that they do it. Like every vote. I could scrutinize every vote you made. I could criticize some of them, I'm sure. But I'm not in your head. I don't know what your game plan is. I don't know what your circumstances are. And you just said you come from a district that every precinct voted for you except for one by a handful of votes.
Yeah.
So you're kind of in a safe area. The ones that concern me are the ones that are not in safe areas. These people scare me because they don't fear me. I'm afraid of them. But see, we can change that. And how do we do that? Let's talk about you're running again for the House. You're a year out. Look at the date today. It's exactly 1 year from now you're facing re-election. I want to talk about your strategy and your tactics, your candidacy, and what you're going to do in your district. And I want everybody to listen to this because what Drew's going to tell you is the help he's asking for, how he's going to work with his constituents, how he's going to organize his precincts, how he's going to get people to caucus. Tell people, because, we did this before you became an esteemed, honorable member of the House. You were doing this before it was show business, right?
Yeah.
How does this work? Tell people how it, because maybe somebody's out there, even if it's one person.
Yeah.
Let's say you can move one person from entertainment to activism.
Yeah.
That's the goal of the next 5-10 minutes of this podcast.
Well, you start off by engaging with your constituents, right? I mean, when I ran the first time, I spent hundreds of hours calling, constituents in my district, knocking on doors, having conversations, building relationships with people, letting them know what I stand for. There's a lot of politicians that will go and want to hear what the people in their communities say, and then they rebuttal with, "Oh yeah, that's what I am too." And I don't operate that way. I put it all on the table from, you know, right away from the get-go.
These are my principles.
These are my principles.
How do I move you towards my principles?
Exactly. And that way there's a level of accountability there because I've
put a stake in the ground.
I've put a stake in the ground and I've built my foundation on the things that I stand for. And if you align with those, come stand with me and let me be your voice at the Capitol. If I don't, then so be it. And again, it's just about being who you said you're going to be. And I think I proved that. And so, we're going to hit the ground running again. We already have been, building a huge diverse, group of people that are willing to come out to caucus again and support me.
How are you getting them to caucus? What are you doing? Because see here now, I'm in W3PB and Alex Plekish waxed me here because this is his home district. Alex, congratulations. A fight's only over when somebody stays on the ground.
Yeah.
It's not over, Alex. You see, I'm still living, right? You're going to be retired soon. I'm still going to be playing. Kathy Folk, Andrew Myers, all these crew. We're in SD45 right now. SD45, where if you want to go to a governor's forum, it's $2,000 to sit at the lead table.
That's great.
$200 to go just to get in the room. And you know what they did to me? Even though I'm a alternate delegate to State Central Committee, they actually took me off the email list.
Interesting.
I find out stuff online. I don't even get contacted because, hey, we don't want any political conversation,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Kathy Folk, who refused to endorse President Trump in the last cycle. You're in Wayzata, baby.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 50 billionaires within 5 miles of here. Okay, Lake Minnetonka. So, we're in a different kind of a world. It's not like the world you live in. And I like to tell everybody, I live on the last block in SD. You cross the street, you're in low-life Plymouth, Minnesota. That's how they think about it down there in
Sure.
Wayzata. They get a little nervous when they go that direction. They like to stay in their own enclave. But my point is, I'm focused on my precinct. I got 10 names of people that I'm going to approach, every one of them immediately, starting this week. I'm going to call them, like you said, you built your constituency with
Mhm.
hundreds of hours.
Yep.
I'm doing the same thing. And you know what? The only thing I'm concerned with? W3PB, my precinct. I'm going to build a political organization just in my precinct. I mean, I don't need to be the precinct captain. I don't even need to be in the party. I just need to find neighbors that want to work together to make our precinct a better place to live.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you're in my precinct and you're in my political organization, and let's say your house burns down, hey, I'm going to be there. Let's say you got to move. I'm going to be there. Let's say you got somebody sick and you need a ride to the hospital. I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
You know what that's called? Community. Something that the digital world is focused on taking away from us. So I'm working. What are you doing? I mean, what I'm trying to say is, what effort is being made in your district to actually organize these precincts and get people back to caucus? Or is it so organized you don't have to worry about it?
Well, you want to make sure that the people that were out before that were organized are still motivated to come out. So maintaining those relationships with those people, making sure that they realize that you're still fighting for them, that you still stand by what you have stated you stood by in the past. And again, just it's about building those relationships. And I'm not one of those ones that just come out and ask for support when I need it. I'm always engaging with my constituents all the time.
So you have lists, you have email lists, and you
Yeah,
have
and when
text numbers,
yeah,
and
and through legislative session, when somebody sends me an email and they give me a phone number and leave that, I don't email. I call. I'll spend hours every day calling people on my that have sent me emails, concerns, and 95% of the people that I call back are absolutely blown away that they're actually getting a phone call. They cannot believe it. To me, that's just crazy to me. The fact that someone took their time to send you an email and to voice concern about a said issue or praise for something that you've done, to not take the same amount of time. And listen, I know a lot of people use emails, and that's fine. And that works. You responded and engage with them. I like to just go a little bit step further. I like to just continue to build those relationships, and I call from my personal cell phone number. I don't call from my office number because I want them to know that I'm here for them day and night, 24 hours a day. If something comes to them and they need to reach out to me, they can reach out to me. The same contact, the same phone number that my kids and my family reach out to me, I want them to have access to, because again, that's the change that I want to see. And so I can't not lead that way and expect anything to be different in the political world, right? So that's how I operate, and just maintaining those relationships. When people have an issue, when I've got a business owner in my community that has, some language of a bill that they want to see happen, I make it happen. And I do my best to get those committee hearings and push legislation that's going to help my local economy, being involved in the business community, showing up to those events within the community, fundraisers and stuff like that. And again, just being true to who I say I am, and not placating to the administrative or um the,
say it.
the political ruling class, right? The establishment. And so,
They don't like you, I presume.
yeah, I mean, I think they don't always like the decisions that I make, but I think I would hope at the very least they realize that I'm not in it to cause chaos or disruption, but to be consistent. And I hope that rubs off on other members.
You have a principle, and in your own world, which happens to be the Minnesota House, you're trying to bring people towards the principle, not
Yeah.
towards you
Yeah.
personally, but to a set of principles.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about principles.
I spent the first session and I got attacked a lot from members of my own caucus. And I won't necessarily name names, but I got a lot. I mean, I had one co-chair of a committee that I sit on sent a video of me in committee that made it look like I wasn't prepared for that meeting and sent it to constituents.
Oh, that's
While at the
nice.
same time labeling me as a Pharrell that attacks members. I had members of the caucus start rumors about me that I asked for another member to be removed from a committee so that I could go on in their place. That never happened. So there's a lot of things that were told about me and lies told about me. And instead of members having conversations with me, getting to know who I am and the principles and values that I stand for, they believed the lies that were told to them. And I think I changed some minds with some of the members because I was consistent and I consistently stuck to the values that I promised my constituents.
And those constituents, I want to just state this for if we could get one person in the audience of the thousands of people that are going to watch this, one person to go from entertainment to activism, the building block of your activism is peer-to-peer relationships. That's what you formed in your backyard, which allowed you to contemplate becoming or a elected
Yeah.
member of your community.
I'm accessible, right? I'm not better than anybody. I take the saying from there's a radio show here at local Twin Cities, and I'm the common man, right? The best of the lousiest and the lousiest of the best. I don't pretend to be somebody that I'm not. I don't have a political science degree. I didn't, put pieces in place to set myself up to run for politics. It just happened. God put it in my lap and put it in my heart to run.
The tug, you got the feeling.
And I was just pissed off enough to be motivated enough. And I've always had a chip on my shoulder, right? There's no denying that. I think the stature that God created me to have is kind of what, I've always had a chip on my shoulder.
That
I've
is a very beautiful thing you just said. I
I've al-
want to just stop, gotta stop. That is the single most beautiful thing I've ever heard anybody say coming in here. I mean, from a spiritual perspective. Because what you just said is God made him a certain way, which when he was younger and he didn't understand like he understands now, he got a chip on his shoulder. Like, WTF? Come on.
Yeah.
What are you doing to me?
Yeah. I've always had to prove myself, and that's fine. I think that's
But look at
that's
what-
good. I think
but
that builds
look-
character.
But now look what it's done.
Yeah.
Because if you hadn't had that, you would have never taken the step to become a representative of your neighborhood.
It's very possible. Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible
Yeah.
to hear you say that. And there has to come a point, and maybe you're not there yet, maybe you will be, where you start to accept yourself as perfect for his will,
Oh, absolutely.
not necessarily for yours.
Yeah.
Because, of course, wouldn't we all like to be like Mike? You know?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But, you're perfect for who you are and this is what I tell people, I mean, Tanner, it's like you don't know what part you're playing in the overall plan.
No.
You have no clue.
No,
You're
not at
just
all.
playing. I mean, think of Tanner. Tanner's running along, young man, 24 years old, and he finds himself at Free People Radio. He's endemic of, he's representative of his generation, the Doomer generation, and he's thinking, who's this dude I'm hanging around with? I'm not too comfortable with this dude.
One of my first takeaways when I was going home the first month or two, I was like, "What is this guy's issue with the British?"
Well, we got to know from whence we came to figure out where we are because we have no hope of getting out of this mess. And the British are still quite important in the whole picture. But that's foreign policy, international relations, the globalism, the Great Reset. You know how you beat the Great Reset? 10A. You know, you beat it by hearts and minds in my neighborhood. You know, like Kathy Folk, she's the chair of my local committee, SD45. Her husband was the CEO of XL Energy from 2011 to 2021. And XL was the first major energy company that completely decarbonized with, of course, the support of the caucus. Because, you know, that's such good politics, right? Particularly if you're in 45. Because we're out here in the western suburbs where climate change is such an important issue. And just to let you know, sixth grade, that's me, 1968, my sixth grade report was on air pollution in London. So this is not something that just popped up
Sure.
in Tanner's generation. They were working on this since the 60s. And, you know, the amount of money that got made in the C-suite, the management suite of XL Energy, is hundreds of millions of dollars. The executives, they decarbonized. Energy is a big deal in your legislative body. I mean, we probably not going to have the time to get into it, but let's just suffice to say that if the energy problem isn't solved, seniors will be freezing to death here very soon. And if we started building nuclear power plants today, they'd never be built in time in this area.
Well, and when you take into account the aggregate amount of data centers that are being pushed and being proposed, if those data centers are built under the current policies of the state, which is the 2040 carbon free initiative, we're going to be in a world of hurt. And energy prices are going to skyrocket. They already are rocketing for Minnesotans, but that's going to be, it's going to be a
It's
much
gonna
quicker.
it's gonna pale in comparison to what's coming.
Absolutely, and we're gonna have rolling brownouts. We're gonna have blackouts because our grid doesn't have the input needed for the output.
And I just watched Julia Coleman last year said that every member of the Senate, Minnesota State Senate Republican caucus supports clean energy. And at the same time, Donald Trump is calling it the Green New Scam. And the federal administration, his administration, is moving to kick the pins out from underneath this whole deal.
Well, if the renewable energy needs, government subsidies to be relevant, well, then it's really not relevant, right? And we need to get to a point where the market dictates, you know, what energy sources we want to use, and when make the playing field uneven by creating subsidies for some and excluding others, and actually working against other forms of energy, well, you're creating a false sense of need or demand that's really not there.
Well, I'm breaking it down into politics because of my local area. Uh, you know, if the party, our party, which is full of conflict, I mean, we're going to talk about that in a minute, full of conflict, makes major decisions about policy, like we're not going down this road anymore. This is undermining the sovereignty of my neighborhood. Freezing to death kind of undermines my. Freezing to death makes me dependent. Okay, I want to be independent. Do you have a wood burning stove in your house? Do you have a generator in your house? Do you have warm weather, cold weather gear, clothing? Do you have food? Are you growing your own food? I mean, basic questions
Sure.
that makes people sovereign. Uh, and then the president says, well, this thing is a scam. Are we going to hang on to that here in Minnesota because we're pandering for votes? Or are we going to, in a very full-throated way, come together as Republicans? This is another one of these new wedge issues, of course, energy. It pales in comparison to the Israel issue, but the party's got significant problems. Okay, that doesn't matter in your backyard. Your backyard's about Drew Roach. So you got people on lists that you're in touch with by email and text messages. You're calling people. You're holding local events.
Yep.
Okay, you're going to get people to caucus.
Yep.
and those people are going to elect each other as delegates to your local 10A convention.
58B.
Oh, 50, excuse me. I'm so sorry.
You're good.
I'm sorry. And then I wonder who's in 10. It was a Freudian
It
slip.
was Cretia.
That's right. And then we're going to bring these people in, and they're going to go through the system, and suddenly they're going to have the title of, in my opinion, the most powerful person in the room.
Yeah.
A delegate to the Republican Party convention.
Yeah. And the goal is to connect with people and help them realize how powerful their voice is. See, so many people feel, I think disenfranchised is maybe a little extreme, but I'll use that. They feel disenfranchised. They feel like their voice doesn't matter, in part because they've never participated. So they don't think it matters. So it's engaging with them and letting them know that the world of politics in the caucus process that we have, it's like musical chairs. There's only so many seats. And if you don't sit in the seat, someone else is going to. And the person that's going to sit in that seat for you may not have the values that you do. So go take a seat at the table and have your voice.
It's almost guaranteed that if you stay home and let other people do your work for you,
Yeah.
don't be complaining about the results.
We don't change the world, or we don't change our local communities by wearing, We the People shirts, or hanging a flag outside your house,
Going to Trump boat rallies.
or putting a decal on your truck. That's all great. And that is contagious to get people fired up, but it doesn't change anything.
What changes things? Tell people exactly what changes things.
What changes things is people being empowered to be we the people, to have their voice be heard, to show up in the caucus process.
Republicanism. Let me just say the four pillars of republicanism. The citizen is the sovereign of their own life. But as the sovereign of your own life, you respect other people, which we call minority rights. You believe in the common good if you're a Republican. It's not all about me, 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 me. And the fourth pillar is you participate in civic life.
Yep.
Now, that's kind of an infinite thing. There's a lot of ways to participate. Like, for example, if you're in 45A, I'm in 45B, and you're 45A, where Andrew Myers is our representative. Andrew just put out a thing I read. I can't 100% guarantee it's true because, digital is tricky. But I think it's true that he said that he wants to propose legislation using artificial intelligence to tell the authorities who should and shouldn't own a handgun.
Sure.
This, to me, is exactly the opposite of republicanism, employing artificial intelligence to make a decision about who's qualified or not to own a firearm. It's kind of an abrogation of the 2A. And, of course, he's in what they call purple district. Well, I know a bunch of, well, I don't know a bunch, but I know there's a bunch behind him. I know some cops and ex-cops down there in 45A. They don't like this.
Yeah.
Well, I say to them, hey, if you don't like it, don't complain. Show up at all of his events. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be a delegate is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You can show up at his events and ask a question like, is this true? Like I showed up at one of his events and he put up a picture of himself with Hennepin County Sheriff Witt on the day that the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office said, we will not be assisting ICE. And the caption on his social media was, I support Sheriff Witt and everything she does. Love working with her. And I just asked the question, was this some kind of a dog whistle that you support the Hennepin County Sheriff in rejecting cooperation and coordination with ICE? He didn't like that. He didn't like that question. And I'm not opposed to Andrew being the Republican representative 45A. I just want to hold him accountable to republicanism.
Yeah.
I want him to fear the Republicans in his district more than he fears the liberals.
Sure.
And that's
and I think that's fair. And I think that comes down to just the people in that community that are conservative just need to be more vocal, right?
Oh.
And I think members like Myers, and I'll just be honest, I like Andrew, right? And I think, he's not my representative clearly, but I can understand where Andrew comes from in some of his takes. I don't always agree with him, but I can respect his opinion based on the district that he has. But I think you're right. I think to an extent, um, there are some representatives that are worried about the left and just how far they will go and how outspoken they are in comparison to the silent majority in conservatism. And so sometimes members get caught up in that. Um, and it's a tough situation, right?
Well, I'm just gonna in a conversation, which Andrew's welcome to come in here. I mean, I'm not saying he would, but Andrew, you're listening. You're welcome to come in and talk to me. I mean, I will respect. I don't not like Andrew. He's a
Yeah.
likable dude. But when we're starting to talk about the financial capital of the world having a communist mayor, we could wake up tomorrow and we could have a Democrat socialist mayor of Minneapolis. The Democrat socialists have clearly taken over the party, the Democrat Party. Hakeem the Wise One Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, just endorsed Mondami in New York this week. And even more shocking, Bill Kristol, who was thought at one time when George Bush was president to be a rock-solid Republican, neoconservative. His father, Irving Kristol, started the neocon movement. He was the editor and publisher of the Weekly Standard, which for a long time, that was the conservative publication.
Yeah.
This guy came out, allegedly a Republican, and supported Mondami. So what we're doing here now with this kind of politic is we're losing the country. And so, yes, if the budget was balanced and we were following the Constitution and every state had a Republican form of governance, which is in our Constitution, never been challenged, some of these polities that go over the edge, I would be, okay, I get it, Andrew. I get it. But see, now I'm going to start advocating for people standing up for faith and freedom.
Yeah.
Because the cooperation with the Democrat, which Julia Coleman one time stood me up and said, I bet you've never governed. Well, hey, guess what, Julia? The people you want to be in business with are socialists.
Yeah.
So where are we heading with this? Tanner, can you please play this clip? Because we got breaking news just from last night. Play this clip because I'm going to let you tell everybody about it. This, as Tanner gets this ready, is a clip that was sent to me of an event that was in, what city was it in again, Drew?
It was in Dundas, Minnesota.
Dundas, Minnesota.
Yep.
It was a candidate forum.
For Rice County Republicans.
Rice County. And here is Royce White laying out the issue that we're facing, all of us here in the Republican Party, Minnesota, and throughout this great nation. This is the issue everywhere.
Tough for me to do, but I'm going to try and pull it off. If you see, I don't dress like a politician. I don't talk like one. I don't do stump speeches. I'm just going to talk to you about what's going on right here today, right now. Minnesota Republican Party. Running for U.S. Senate, ran against Amy Klobuchar in 2024. Did well, flipped 27 counties. I think I have the second most U.S. Senate votes in Minnesota Republican Party history. Thank you.
Woo!
That was cool.
Yeah.
I just talked to Jason Lewis the other day, who has the #1 votes. I said, man, I got to find a way to catch you. We talked for like an hour. Interesting conversation, nonetheless. Jason Lewis, good man. You guys familiar with Jason Lewis down here, aren't you? Amen. Convenient that I showed up today. I just talked to him. Out of the 4 sitting, people may not like this, but we're going to go straight to the punchline. Okay? Out of the 4 sitting U.S. Congress members, Republican U.S. Congress members, how many do you think were willing to endorse me after I won the nomination and was going to face Amy Klobuchar in the general election, one of the most radical and well-funded Democrats in the entire country? How many? Zero.
Oh.
Zero. I mean, and that's kind of like the subtext of the entire American political culture. President Trump, anyone? Anybody in here a fan of President Trump? Raise your hand. Okay, well, 50-50. Well, not a lot of enthusiasm. The President of the United States saved your country in this nation's darkest hour. Absolutely. In the twilight of his life, he could have chosen to do anything else, but instead he was willing to sacrifice his life, his reputation, and a bunch of legal lawfare in order to give you a fighting chance. So every time they say that man's name, I would like a little bit more enthusiasm. Okay, thank you. All right, I understand. Those chairs are comfortable. I get it. This is a beautiful venue. Okay. Transgender jihadists on our 2025 bingo card. Transgender jihadists. Communists taking over the world's financial capital. And I ask myself, tomorrow morning we have a similar problem right here in Minneapolis too, don't we? Yes. Seems to be a theme. And I always go back to the same question. I go, well, how did this happen? I mean, 10 years ago, I was playing basketball in NCAA national, tournament. Big Monday, we call it. Me against Kentucky, 25 points, the whole deal. Not really that involved in politics, not really that interested. Understood history, but not deeply involved in politics. I was more of the variety. Drew Roach spoke about special interests and lobbies. I said, oh, the hell with politics. They're all bought and paid for. But I didn't really want to believe it. Now I kind of know it's true. Yeah? It's dark reality, especially in this party. And we have to get comfortable with sorting that out. We want to unify. We want to have a party, but we have to organize around the right principles. What did we conserve? When a communist is going to take over the world's financial capital, what did we conserve? We have a problem in this country. I call it conservative ink. It's like this Upper East Coast Ivy League country club academic Republican or conservative elite. There's a man you may know, his name is Irving Kristol. Anybody familiar with Irving Kristol? Raise your hand if you're familiar with Irving Kristol. I like it. I get to teach today, too. Who would know that dumb Jock from down in Rondo, St. Paul knew a thing or two about political science? Irving Kristol, any of you up here? Yeah. Okay. Irving Kristol. I know you would know. Yeah. Irving Kristol, intellectual thought leader of the neoconservative movement, was a former Trotskyite. Anybody familiar with Trotsky? Mm-hmm. Communist Russia. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Anybody realize that on October 31st, Irving Kristol's son, Bill Kristol, endorsed Zoran Mamdani for mayor of New York City? And he said, I like a lot of these young Democrats. They're really impressive. I don't know what else to tell you. When your conservative thought leaders talk about preserving the Democrat liberal order, and your conservative thought leaders endorse some of the most radical candidates in this country's history, I think the problem's right here in this party. I think we have to sort out what's going on right here in this room and right here in this state. And we can't shy away from it. We have to just put our head down, have some courage like President Trump did coming down the escalator in 2016 when President Bush Sr. endorsed Hillary Clinton. Let's not forget the history. And I only say it because I'm faced with the same thing here in the party today. Star Tribune, Minnesota Star and Sickle, this is the last thing I'll say. Minnesota Star and Sickle, communist newspaper. They endorse communists. Their owner is a former Republican Minnesota state representative. Are you seeing the theme? And they have a panel with Tim Pawlenty, Julia Coleman, and one of your colleagues at Duckworth. And they say, on the record, they're glad there's so many gubernatorial candidates because that means nobody will have to have broad appeal to the MAGA base. It's right out there in the open. And I'm the extreme, unelectable candidate that's running for the United States Senate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanner. That is hot off the press. That was just this past evening, Monday night. This is Tuesday night, the 4th. That was November 3rd. Drew was even referenced in that clip. Drew, you were there.
Yeah.
And I know that things got a little bit wild downstream of this, but I play this clip because it states, I think, quite eloquently what's going on. in the party. What Roy said, I agree with. People, Professor Penn, why don't you comment on the Democrats? Do I have to? They speak for themselves.
Yeah.
The problem is the subterfuge, the trickery, the lying, lack of principle in my own party. And that can change.
Yeah.
If the constituents demand it. In fact, in that same forum that Royce was referring to with Duckworth and Pawlenty, they actually talked about a trick that was necessary for Republicans to get elected in Minnesota. You're not tricking anybody.
No.
You just here's my principles. I'm putting them on the table. You love me? Great. Let's go. You don't love me? Hey, it's free country. I'm cool with that. You have a principle. See, we're lacking in, we're not lacking it. We have different principles. I don't want to impugn anybody in saying they're without principles. They have different goals, different principles. But when we have the thought leaders of the party endorsing communists, hey, that's a problem.
I think it's a bigger problem than that because, there's so many special interest groups or lobbying groups that some members identify as stakeholders. Now, I push back on that completely because the only stakeholders are the people. Special interest groups, in my opinion, are not stakeholders.
Okay,
They
are you saying you have elected representatives that call themselves stakeholders?
No, I'm saying that representatives identify special interest groups
As stakeholders. That's very World Economic Forum talk.
Like the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, right? I'm just going to call them out because they say they represent business, but yet we had an omnibus bill, which has many provisions in it, and it really didn't have the support that the chair was expecting it to have. And because he was getting pushback about no votes, they then they tried to get the NRA and the chamber to push members into voting yes for it. And what they said is, we're urging a yes vote and we will grade accordingly. Well, first of all, the NRA finally got cold feet because there were so many people that pushed back on it, and they decided to not grade that bill anymore. The chamber still stayed true and graded that bill. Well, in that bill, we had surcharges and fees, not taxes, because of course we're against raising taxes. But as long as we don't say taxes, it's not taxes. And so I pushed back on that. And one of the last days of session, I called out the chamber because I don't represent the chamber. Chamber can grade me all they want. The only people I represent is my district, right? So the problem, and then we have another organization like the SEIU, right? This is an organization. Go ahead.
It's the state employees.
Exactly. And I'm not saying the problem with them is that organization. Again, it's a stakeholder. And they have endorsed a Democrat socialist, Omar Fateh, for mayor of a major metropolitan city in America. Okay? Now, for me, it's problematic when my local party, okay, not local, my BPOU, but when the state party or the HRCC or Senate Victory Fund takes any donations from that organization, you are now part of the problem. Because if there's an organization out there, I don't care how much money they're willing to give the party or HRCC or Senate Victory Fund, if they aren't standing for the principles that we stand and we turn a blind eye for money, what are we?
Corrupt.
What are we?
We're corrupt.
So I can't, in good faith, go and try to fundraise for the HRCC if they're turning a blind eye to an organization that is endorsing a Democrat socialist for mayor of a city that they know it's going to destroy that city.
That's a clip right there. Okay, because what Drew just did was he drew a line in the sand, and there's some very powerful people that you're obviously not going to be intimidated by. I mean, you didn't mention his name, so I'm going to let it go. But I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And, when you talk about the chair, what you're saying is quite principled. And Royce says the same thing about AIPAC. People broad brush him as being anti-Semitic, which is just part of the whisper campaign.
Exactly.
There's probably one on you too. Anybody calling you anti-Semitic? I'm just curious. It's just a joke.
No, I mean, luckily we don't have to deal with that lobby.
I'm just kidding you. I'm just kidding you. But my point is, Royce is not anti-Semitic. He's not willing to give unfettered and unreviewed support to any country in the world. And his comment is about the American Israel Political Action Committee. One time he said he was critical of the Jewish lobby, and he was immediately pilloried as an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
When the most successful lobby in Washington, one of the most, if not the most, one of the most, is the American Israel Political Action Committee, AIPAC. And if you go to their landing page, right on that landing page, you got Hakeem the Wise One Jeffries pictures. Hakeem the Wise One with Mike Johnson, and Catherine Clark, number 2, with guess who? Tom Emmer. They're all there lined up, smiling faces. They're all friends of Israel. And Royce is saying, hey, I'm okay with the lobby, but could we pick a side of the football? Because AIPAC, if you're giving money to these Democrat socialists, which it is, we don't want your money because we're Republicans. Pick us. That doesn't make Royce an anti-Semite or against unity.
Yeah.
He wants real unity. And that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's different, but just a little different. Saying the same thing.
And I'll go a step further.
Go, please.
When we have the MPPOA, that
MPPOA stands for
Minnesota Police and Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association.
You mean the group that universally throughout Minnesota supported the driver's license for all legislation?
Correct.
That group.
And I want people to understand this because people don't understand this fully. The MPPOA labels itself as a police union. They are not. Okay? They are not. They are a lobbying firm hired by the LELS, which is the actual police union. So the actual police union, LELS, subcontracts its lobbying to the MPPOA. The MPPOA then goes out and identifies itself as having 8,000 plus union members, but they're not their members. They are the members of the LELS. They just speak on behalf of the LELS. But a lot of times they speak out of turn because they don't represent the things that the LELS members actually represent. And so they do the same thing where they sit there and they tell Republicans, we need Republicans to win because Republicans care about law enforcement and they support law enforcement. But then when we get to the election cycle, they're endorsing some Democrats in very key seats throughout both the Senate and the House. I have a problem with that. Be consistent. Like if you're going to come and tell the Republican caucus or a large part of the caucus that we need Republicans to flip the House and then you support Democrats, I can't take you serious because you're inconsistent. Pick a side and stick to it. Stand on the principles that you say you stand for. Don't placate and don't
pander.
Acquiesce because you're just trying to buy favor with a member that you think might win. I'm in a very red district. My opponent got endorsed by the MPPOA.
Are you
Yeah.
kidding? Oh, wow.
And
wow.
This is a seat that's been Republican for 20 years. I'm very pro-cop. Very. Now, within reason, right? As long as pro-police doesn't infringe on my constitutional right, I'm 100% behind law enforcement. I don't like flock cameras. I don't like the license plate readers that many departments are buying that they set up on a street in a town, and as you drive past it, they're scanning your license plate. I don't like that.
We just had one of those down literally on this road that neighbors us right here, and I was keeping an eye on it, and it disappeared. It's not there anymore.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean I'm anti-cop. So that it just means that I'm pro-liberty. Right? I just want to be able to travel freely. I'm a sovereign citizen now, if you say that word. And I joke around with some members in the caucus. We have fun with it. But I think that's a problem. I think when there's law enforcement, we had a story here right outside of my district where there was a law enforcement agency that used a utility vehicle with a scissors lift to work on a utility line or give the presence that they were doing that. But really what they were doing was taking pictures and monitoring people who were on their phone as they drove. And I think that's a little disingenuous. And that type of policing I'm not necessarily for. It doesn't mean I don't support law enforcement. I was the only member in the House that voted to keep law enforcement's long-term care. This is the week after Law Enforcement Appreciation Week. We took away long-term care for law enforcement.
This has really pissed off retired cops.
Oh, they are upset.
And you know what? This is an issue right here in 45, Andrew. A lot of retired cops down there in 45A. They watched that vote. They didn't like the outcome.
Yeah.
Right?
And the problem with it was that it was in an omnibus pension bill that also had really good provisions for teachers. I mean, really good. It was a win for teachers, but it came at the loss of our law enforcement officers and our public safety workers, and that's a problem. We shouldn't trade one thing for another. So I was the only member that voted against that, and right off the get go, I was attacked by some people for being anti-educators, for being anti-teachers. But that's not the reality. Give me an opportunity.
Give you a clean bill.
Give me an opportunity to vote on a single line item, and I'll vote for the teachers, but I'm also going to vote for the law enforcement because they deserve to have the long-term care that they deserve.
And
they're an essential service, and who are we to say? Previously, before that bill passed, if you were a law enforcement officer and you got injured on the job, you had insurance till you're 65. You had faith and protection to know that if something happened to you on the job, the community was behind you, that they weren't going to cast you off. Now what they did is they put a cap of 60 months. So if you're a law enforcement officer and you pull somebody over in Minnesota and it's winter and you ended up getting hit on the side of the road while making a traffic stop, helping a member of the community change a tire or whatever it may be, and you get injured, they're now saying you got 60 months to get better. I think that's a problem. And we can't be serious and say that we support law enforcement and then say, well, we support you for 60 months and then figure it out.
When you're putting your life on the line.
When you're putting your life on the line. So, and I was the only, in the entire legislature, there was only 13 of us that voted against that. So 12, I think it was 12 members or 13 members in the Senate and just myself in the House. And it got sold as a really big win for teachers. And it was. But at what cost? And that's where, I know I got a little sidetracked, but, if there's one thing that we can do as a party that can make things better for our communities and for the state, it's to make single subject bills a foundation and principle of our party. And until we're serious about that, and we're gonna continue to talk about fraud and corruption, we're not being serious if we're going to continue to vote for these large omnibus bills.
And there is an author or someone who is exploiting this process at the top of the funnel, of course. And there's a lot of lawyers hanging around and aides that write legislation. This is not an accident that you're getting these omnibus bills. This is a political strategy. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. When we go into a committee, we know the agenda for the day. We know what bills are going to be heard in committee. We, by and large, know what bills have the votes to pass and what don't. Well, what happens is they make deals and they say, well, we're going to hold this bill over for possible inclusion in an omnibus bill because they know in that day in committee, it doesn't have the votes to pass. So if a bill doesn't have the merit to stand on its own,
why are we sticking in an omnibus?
And get 5 or 12 members to vote for it, why the hell would we put it in a large packet? Why are we trading it? It's because this is where they put grant money. This is where they hide the pork, and they put in all these bills together and tell you, they make a shit sandwich and tell you it's a bologna sandwich and expect you not to call it out. And until we demand better and expect better, and I hope and pray that in 2026, when Republicans come together and we win across the state and we get a trifecta control, that we take that principled stand. Because it's something that we, especially on the conservative side, do we want more government or we want less government?
That's a very good question because it depends what Republican you talk to. I mean, it's just that simple.
If
You
you're a
know,
true conservative, single line items by default should be part of your foundation because we're not in it, at least I'm not in it, to pass a whole bunch of bills. Matter of fact, if I was a chair of a committee, I would say, you want to pass a bill, you better give me 2 to repeal. Otherwise, we're not passing anything. For real.
You're making friends today in high places, aren't you?
I don't think it's a huge ask, right? Let's limit government. So where can we find bills that are either outdated, unuseful,
Laws. You're talking about laws.
yeah,
For every law we're going to pass, let's retire 2 that are not correct, right?
exactly.
I think that's beautiful. I've heard that before. I think that's a great idea. I think President Trump talked about that at the federal level. But we're talking about, we're dancing around something here. We're talking about people in the caucus that do things differently than what you are proposing here on the podcast tonight. And we played that clip from Royce. And I want to, in the time that's left, you were an eyewitness to this. You were a presenter. What happened downstream of that clip? I want to hear, because I mean, this is news for me. I'm looking for your reportage, so to speak.
Well, what happened down clip is I think it was in a later question about respecting the endorsement, and Royce had called out a number of prominent Republicans that after his endorsement in the 2024 convention, those prominent individuals did not support his endorsement. And one of those individuals that he called out was Kenneth Qualls.
Sitting
And
on the stage that night.
And so it there was a little bit of a kerfuffle, sort of say between the two, and it got a little rowdy. There was some some attendees that got a little frustrated with some of the commentary going back and forth. So it didn't end how you would maybe would have hoped or would have expected, but I think it's important conversations to be had, unfortunately, right? I mean, that's the problem is part of it is there are many people on our side of the aisle that only want to have conversations that are comfortable.
Well, that's
Right.
part of our culture here in Minnesota. It's Minnesota nice. If we're going to have any disagreement or conflict, we're going to handle it in a very passive aggressive kind of way.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching the emergence of Speaker DeMuth into the governor race, and I'm on X and I'm watching the figures like Kelly Fenton, who hasn't posted anything on X for years. Suddenly she's popped up. Makes me wonder who's paying her. I don't know if you're getting paid, Kelly. And Kelly, you're welcome to come on here. But, I'm watching her subtle undermining of Kristen Robbins, who I've been a critic of. I have to tell you, Representative Robbins, the way they're casting dirt on you, I'm gaining some respect for you.
Well, anybody that they don't like instantly is A for L, right? Like I came in and because I have a set of principles, well, I must be A for L. He's A for L. Listen, I stand with anybody who shares my principles at any time, anywhere. I am an author on bills that the most extreme Democrat is on because if it's on that particular issue,
you have something that brings you together.
it's about principle, and it can be item by item, subject by subject. And the problem that I see is, they'll say, especially on the other side of the aisle, more so than our side, is Democrats refuse. There's some that refuse to work with me because of my stance on transgenderism, right? Because there is no transgender child. Let's just put that out there. That's. I'll just say that to piss people off. There's no such thing. But there are people that refuse to work with me on a bill that they believe in simply because I'm an author on the bill. Like, give me a break, right? I don't agree with Alicia Gomez on 99% of things, right? But when we agree, and I don't care who stands for those values on any said issue.
If you have one subject bills, that gets a lot easier,
Well,
doesn't
there
it?
you go, right? So, when it just it gets a little frustrating when that, kind of stuff, those charades happen.
But you said something very powerful. If the citizens stand up and say, we're not going to do this anymore, because the people that run this trick, it is a trick, just like Zach Duckworth said to get elected, there's a trick. Like Tim Pawlenty said, there's a trick. There's a trick. As Royce pointed out, if we have enough candidates, we don't really have to talk to the base of the party. A trick. There's a trick to this legislative process. Some people are very good at it. They have constituents. Their constituents probably don't understand the game. And, everybody stands up in front of the crowd and puts on a red MAGA hat and a decal on the back of their truck. And everybody, these people didn't like Trump, are just waiting for Trump to go down. And these folks are waiting out here and they figure they're going to outlast. And I don't know even what to call this movement: the citizens movement, the sovereign movement, the Tea Party, the Trump movement, MAGA movement, nationalist movement. I don't even know what to call it. I don't. Let's just call it people that stand on principles of the philosophy of republicanism. See, these people, when they're tricky, and let's just be frank, we're going to cover this on Thursday's podcast. Honest Abe, George Washington couldn't tell a lie. I mean, those are our icons of republicanism. Those are constructed realities. Was George Washington incapable of telling a lie? I wasn't there. I do not know.
Sure.
But that's his reputation,
Yeah.
carefully created over hundreds of years as the bedrock of republicanism. Okay. Can we use those constructed stories to at least attempt to act like Republicans? Like, number one, let's not lie to each other. Let's not trick our constituents. Let's not create legislation that looks one way and is actually another.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not wear red MAGA hats when we're actually Nikki Haley supporters or Mike Pence supporters, of which I know some. Like Alex Plekish, who served with me on a board, was a Mike Pence Republican. Yet we put the picture up on the last podcast, Tanner. He was standing up on the stage when Royce White got the endorsement, screaming and cheering for Royce because he's a politician. Royce, he said at the beginning of that thing, hey, I don't look like a politician. I don't dress like a politician. I don't talk like a politician. That'd be like you, Drew Roach. You two are like frickin' frack. You're on the opposite ends of the extremes, but you're saying you're the same but a little different.
Yep.
You don't dress like a politician. You don't talk like a politician. You don't think like a politician. And people go, oh, this is terrible. We need professionals to run the deal. Because that's what they say. You're not electable.
Yeah.
You're not qualified. You're
Well,
unfit.
They say I can't work with others.
Can't work with others.
You can't work with others.
Can't work with others.
I can't work with others, or they can't work with me.
But my point is, when we're electing communists to run the financial capital of the country, you folks that are professionals have kind of let the cow get out of the pasture. I mean, that $37 trillion of debt. What's our budget shortfall here in Minnesota?
Well, we're looking at a $5 billion deficit. But that's not take into account the soon to be largest scam, which will probably be personal family medical leave.
And as a business owner, and you as a business owner, would you say that that is ripe for potential abuse?
Oh, it's designed to be abused. That's why they did it. They just need another piggy bank to pull from. All the other piggy banks are running dry.
Isn't that great? Now, couldn't have people come out of the caucus when we had other legislation that was passed, like housing for the unhomed? Couldn't have somebody come out and said, wait a second, I read this legislation. It looks like it's ripe to be abused.
Mm-hmm.
Did you just not say that?
Yep.
Say it one more time, because we don't need to be in power as Republicans to call out, because you're the sheepdog. You're supposed to protect your constituents from the wolf.
Yeah.
And the wolf, talk about this bill just a little. One more time.
Well, so this was, I don't have a huge, I mean, this is not something that we really adjudicated, you know, in the last session, right? Because it had already been passed. So I would say by and large part, it was something that we fought for and fought against, but also know that because we were fighting, I should say that leadership was fighting to, and a caucus as a whole was fighting to, take away healthcare from illegals, which is a huge, line item on our budget. Um, to stop that, that the personal family medical leave was something that just we didn't have the ability to move and to repeal and do it push back. It's something that I think many of members would have loved for us to put our heels in the ground and been a little bit more defiant in an agreement. We would have been a little bit more stronger vocally and willing to play the cards on the table for a shutdown to at least push back the start of the personal family medical leave. We would have liked to have seen that post 2026, right after the election, because it would have been able to have, we would have been able to get those business owners that were going to be dramatically affected by that, which is going into effect here January 1st of 26. They would have been even much more motivated to come out in 26 and have their voice be heard. In the midterm elections, it's very difficult to get those low propensity voters to come back out. We don't have Donald Trump carrying us in the ballot this year. So what's going to carry us is the strong voiced conservatives that are demanding a change, that are demanding to stop riding the merry-go-round that the party's been riding for decades.
And sliding leftward every session.
Yeah.
Since I've been your age.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not, look, this is nationally. I mean, think about New York City. They're going to elect a communist today. I mean, this didn't just happen overnight. This has been a 30-year slide.
Yeah, but Republicans are making waves, and we're moving the legislature in our direction. And I think if we just keep up the momentum, it'll be interesting to see the dynamic and the theater that's played in this next session. Because that's a lot of it is theater, specifically now in a policy year and not a budget year. There's gonna be lots of sound bites. There's gonna be lots of people sounding like champions, and for good reason. They should. Um, it'll be interesting to see just how much some members are willing to stick their heels in the ground and stand on the hill that they otherwise wouldn't have done, because they know we need that momentum going into 2026, right? Because the voters need to see that we have got strong conservatives that are willing to push back against the status quo, right? We're sick of it. I know there's many members within the caucus that are frustrated with our messaging and frustrated with the lack of aggressiveness coming from our side of the aisle in getting out in front of stories and messaging properly, because we know that we need to keep those low propensity voters engaged, because if they feel like they don't have anybody fighting for them, they're not coming back out in 2026. And we don't have a Trump in the future coming on the ballot in 2028 that's going to re-engage them. We may lose them forever.
Well, this is really what politics to me is like. Step A, there's 4,100 precincts in Minnesota. Here in CD3 where I live, in SD45, which is my district, there's nothing going on in the precincts. There's no effort. See, like, my board does not like me, and I do not like them. That has nothing to do with politics. We're not in this for liking each other. We're in this to elect Republicans. I'm one of the most fierce advocates and workers for Republicanism in the state of Minnesota. I know that. Do they contact me? Do they ask me to be involved in my precinct? Are they asking me what I'm doing? They don't care. In fact, they don't want those people to come into the process, because guess what? They're going to vote these Mike Pence Republicans out. And what you're saying is these low propensity voters, some of them are deeply, deeply political. They've just lost the faith in the party.
Yep.
So there's two ends to it. One is those strident voices demanding change. But where's the effort? And I'm going to urge you and every member that comes on here, and please send people over here. The members need to facilitate the build out of a real party at the grassroots level statewide, starting in CD5.
Yeah.
20% of those voters in CD5. I met with a local leader of the black community 2 weekends ago. He said to me, there's no Republicans ever come to Minneapolis. Ever.
Yeah.
We have to start to think out of the box. So you're right. We need strident voices. I agree with you that are going to stand up for republicanism. We also need to build a cohesive party at the grassroots level, as you've done in your backyard.
Yeah. Well, and so, Democrats, they cater their messaging to suburban white women, right? You could see it now, and they're setting the table for that by talking about getting rid of military style weapons and large capacity magazine. That message is directly to white suburban women. They always try to deal with emotion and not facts. So when they can pivot and say it's about the kids, it's about the safety of the kids. Well, of course, everybody wants kids to be safe. Nobody wants to advocate for kids getting killed in a school or a church. It's absurd to say that I don't care about the welfare and the safety of children in school because I'm anti taking away AR-15s from law-abiding citizens is just disingenuous. And we get caught up too much of trying to placate and match the message from the left to the suburban white women instead of reflecting on who is really coming out to vote for Republicans. And I think we're going to see the largest uptick of males under the age of 30, especially post Charlie Kirk assassination, to come to the Republican Party. And so what are we going to do as a party to reach that base and to get them motivated and engaged, right? It's prime picking right now for us to be able to go in and engage with those people,
The future of the country.
of the party,
Yeah.
the future of the country that's had enough of the status quo, right? And so what are we going to do to engage with that and understand that there might be some demographics within the voter base that we're just never going to be able to engage with enough to have them come out and vote for us. And that's okay. Over time, hopefully that will happen, but we just can't get caught up in trying to placate to that. We just need to, find our lane and stick to it. And I think, reaching out and connecting with that, under 30 males that are really have been motivated and feel the urge to get out. I mean, we see, post Charlie Kirk assassination, just the uptick of TPUSA chapters across the country, both in high schools and colleges, and that's got to be reflective. Those aren't liberals.
I do want to say, Drew, and you might have missed this. We had a very prominent pollster on Mark Mitchell, who's the head pollster at Rasmussen, which is a pretty well-respected polling organization. If you're listening to this, Mark, good evening to you. Mark came on and said that we don't want to get caught up in our own press releases here, that while there is a movement of young people into exploring republicanism, the vast majority of young people are going socialist. We saw that in the comments. We posted up a bunch of shorts.
Yeah.
From I had a podcast with the Somali man on. We talked about Mandami and Fatah as Muslim candidates. And I read the comments. Whoa. There is some hardcore support for socialism in the young cohort.
We even got accused of propaganda. They said that it was AI-generated propaganda to sway people away from socialism. It's wild what some people have been commenting.
Yeah.
Well, so I just want to caution the party. Now, of course, you're right. Those voters are young. They're up for grabs. What is the party doing to approach those people? Hey, you're pretty young.
Yeah.
You're pretty young. You're kind of on the outside of the power structure. The power structure, I like to say this, I've been saying it for several years. Average age, are you ready? 462 years old. That's the Republican Party of Minnesota. And we saw it in that clip where I said, who supports President Trump? And there was kind of a tepid response. People didn't jump out of their chairs and scream at the top of their lungs, probably because some of the people couldn't jump out of their chairs and scream at the top of their lungs. That doesn't mean they're not important members of our cohort. It's just that if we're going to beat back a group of people that are dedicated to ending the republic and ending the Constitution, they're radical materialists that do not believe in faith at all. If we're going to stop these people, boy, it's going to be a different kind of a crew that does it. The crew we have right now is cooperating with them, facilitating with them. Like Julia Coleman said, governing with them. And you see, Julia, I'm not opposed to you. I'm trying to move you towards the principle so that we have principles that we agree on. And here's a fundamental one. A Republican form of governance is guaranteed to every state in this union by the Constitution of the United States of America. The concept of republicanism as a governance is in our Constitution. It doesn't say anything goes. It says you are guaranteed a Republican form of governance. Let us think about what that means and rediscover it. And if you're in the caucus, I'm not against any Republicans that act like Republicans. And if you change, I'm okay with that. Like I said, if you come to the principle because of the pressure of your constituents, that's cool. Guess who it's on? The constituents.
Yeah.
It's, you are a reflection of the people that live in your neighborhood. Must be a pretty hard Scrabble group down there.
Well, I just, I to an extent, yeah. I mean, we're blue collar, folks in Farmington. You're not going to see too many people walking around in suit and tie in Farmington or House District 58B. That's for sure.
I love coming down there for that event. I hope you invite me down there again.
Yeah, we
You
will.
got any events coming up?
Well, we do have one here. We're still in the works of getting that all ironed out. We just had an event a couple weeks ago. It was a woman shoot around. So, Senator Ron Latz at a they had the Senate talks about the gun legislation and the working group. And in that working group, Senator Latz had mentioned that women who carry firearms are more likely to have their guns used against them than they are to actually defend themselves. So I took it upon myself to team up with a local business owner in the community and some other people within the district to get a woman shoot around and to get women. They offered classes for the conceal and carry permit at a discounted rate for these ladies. So ladies got to come out and get their permit to carry, and then we did a full shoot around at a farm nearby. And it was a really good event, right? And empowers women to as well as men, but specifically in this case, empowers women to advocate for their Second Amendment rights and learn and feel comfortable in it. And so it was nice having an event where women were just surrounded by other women. We heard from a lot of people that sometimes when there's a lot of men there, that they, especially for women that are just getting into firearms, they don't feel as confident and as comfortable. So we wanted to provide them a space where they could get used to holding a firearm, educating themselves on a firearm, and learning how to defend themselves. And it was really good event. We had a really big turnout, and that was the first time we put that together. And we had such, a resounding feedback to that we're looking forward to be able to put that on every year. So that's something that we're going to do, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. We put it on very last minute with a couple weeks of planning, and it was just a really good event. So that was one of the things. But yeah, we're working on ironing out some of these other.
I would like to be invited.
Yeah.
Tanner, could you please put all of Representative Roach's socials and all of his different contact information in the podcast description? Drew, you're running again for re-election, which means you have a re-election campaign.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure we get your website, which is, can you just share that?
It's Drew for House. So that's DREWFOR house.com.
If you happen to live in Florida or New York, wherever you're listening and you like Drew, let me tell you something. If you're living in a red state, like Oklahoma, not that the party down there is wonderful, but every single district in Oklahoma voted for Trump. Red. We need your help up here in Minnesota. Minnesota is the center of ideological leftism worldwide.
Yep.
So if we can take them down here, boy, we heard them.
Yeah.
Drew needs your support. So please, if you can support Drew, that's fantastic. You can support him by going to the website, donating some money. I can also say that Free People Radio needs your support. Go to TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. It's fall. Winter is coming. You're going to need new tires. Hey, in wintertime, new rubber is important because you can end up in the ditch without it. We got winter tires. We got all-season tires. All the prices are right. We put them on right by your backyard. You can meet me. You talked about calling back constituents. And let me tell you something. When people contact me at support@tireget.com or they put comments in the YouTube people are shocked that I get back to them because it's about building a community.
Yeah.
We're into building a political action community that changes the culture of Minnesota. I'm going to say this again. Our Constitution guarantees every state a Republican form of government. But that's dependent on the citizens to realize that's their right and their responsibility to conserve. So TireGet, go to the Free People Store, go to Drew's website. Drew, your handle on X is?
Shoot, I don't even know. Let me pull it up. I thought he had it.
We're going to wait for you. We want to get people engaged in the digital army. If you're following Professor Penn at Prof Penn Podcast on X, let's hook up with Mr. Drew Roach at
It's at Drew Roach MN.
At Drew Roach MN. Fantastic. Tanner, thank you for coming in this morning. Drew, thank you for coming back. It's always great to talk to you. You're welcome here. Send some of your fellow members here.
For sure.
Because we want to make, and I'm going to tell all of you trad Republicans, you don't like my politics? Hey, you know what? You want to unify? Come talk to the people that listen to me. Because if we turn our backs on the citizens that are interested in republicanism as a form of governance, let's just say, if we turn our back on those people, we don't unify with this audience, there's no victory.
Yep.
We need to unify. But guess what? We're holding the principle and we're bringing you to the principle. See, don't talk to us about unify with you over at the country club. Because guess what? 89% of the people in this country don't own any stocks and bonds. They don't have 401ks. They're struggling to pay their bills. They're struggling to keep their kids in braces. They're fighting financially every day. We have to relate to those people. If we want to win, we have to understand what is this party going to be post-President Trump. And if you all think we're going back to the way it was, you're dreaming, Governor Pawlenty and all of your crew, Andy Bream. You guys are smoking dope, aren't you? You don't want to tell us you're getting high, but you must be to think that everything that's happened since 2016 is going to go away. It's not. We're here to stay. And I hope you're here to stay and you have a long and productive career representing the people of your district. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tanner.
Have a good night, everybody.